4 years ago, this is the day that Dustin Brown walked into a library in Morton, Illinois and tried to murder 16 children. October 13th, 2015. And James Vernon, 75-year-old James Vernon, was in the room teaching chess to 16 homeschooled kids when this wretched guy, 19 years old, his life is basically over. He's been charged with child pornography. He's been outed by his school. The cops, he's been charged with it, expelled. His life is over. He's going to prison. And like, that's it. He's had it. So he like tapes up 2 hunting knives, puts on grippy gloves, heads over to the library, and he's going to murder as many children as he can. Well, James Vernon is in the room. Turns around, this kid walks in, and he says, "I'm going to kill some people." And Vernon's like, "What?" He thinks it's like a joke. But the kid starts to cut himself. So like Vernon takes him seriously. And at that moment, Vernon says that he remembered training in hand-to-hand Army combatives from 50 years prior. And he said it kicked in. He remembered it. And he said, watch for which hand he's dominant with, because that's probably where the first attack is coming from. So Vernon looked at him. He's right-handed, coming from the right. So Vernon went like this. Got all these kids in the room. This kid, the door's over there. And he goes, moves in on the kid. And the kid goes, so Vernon does it again. And the kid goes like this. And by that point, Vernon is now between the guy and the door. And all the kids go and run out. And now this kid's plan is over. That's it. His life is over, everything's over. So now he says, okay, old man, I'm going to take it out on you. And he attacks Vernon. Vernon takes him, he gets stabbed, throws him on a table. Fight lasts about 90 seconds, but he's able to subdue this guy. He's bleeding, caught an artery, nicked an artery in his left hand. He still doesn't have full range of motion. Throws this guy down on the table, holds him, and the kid like gives in. That was the epilogue of my book. Some of you may remember that story. And Vernon was like kind of a national hero. He got like Carnegie Award and all this kind of stuff. I'm writing a follow-up to the Protector Ethic. And I had written this whole prologue and everything like that. In fact, I sent it to Doug, and Doug read it, and he was like, yeah, it's good. I'm like, it's not good. So I took it and went, Luke Skywalker. And I couldn't figure out what I was going to write about. So I went back to Protector Ethic. I read that story, and I went, what's going on now? It's been like 4 years. What happened? What was the epilogue to that epilogue? Dustin Brown got 32 years. He got handed down a 32-year sentence. I'm reading the material, there's these follow-up articles. And I read this article, and there's this like throwaway line in it. This moment in the courtroom, when Dustin Brown is getting sentenced. He's up at the thing like this. He's sort of placid at this point. I don't know if that's because he's got cocktails running through him, antipsychotics or something like that, or he's gotten some perspective. But there was a moment where there was a brief pause in the sentencing, and he turns back to James Vernon, who's now sitting in the gallery. And he looks at him and he says, "Thank you for saving my life." And that was it. And That's really something. That's really powerful. That moment. I'm leading with that in the opening to this next book. I've talked to both of the reporters who covered the story. They're going to put me in touch with James Vernon. I'm going to interview him for the book.
Very cool.
Anyway, I thought that that was really interesting. And what's also interesting is this, especially when I went back and sort of thought about this fight again. It was 90 seconds between Vernon and this kid. It's not a doubt that James Vernon's training from 50 years prior protected him. There's no doubt about that. There's no doubt that 50 years ago that training also protected those 16 children. It also protected Dustin Brown. Vernon didn't take those knives and kill Dustin Brown. Dustin Brown also somehow landed on top of this table and didn't kill himself. He didn't stab himself mortally, you know, like when he was getting thrown. And Vernon disallowed him from getting out of his grip, grabbing one of those knives, and killing himself, which he had planned to do. That was part of the plan. He was going to kill the kids, then he was going to kill himself. None of that happened. So when Dustin Brown turns around in the courtroom and says that to James Vernon, I think everybody just was not prepared for that. They were prepared to see that kid as just the wretch that he was. And he was a wretch. But he'd also been abused, he was also, autistic, the gambit. Life was stacked against him. But somewhere in that 90 seconds, either Vernon or somebody figured out that his life had mattered, his life had meaning too, it valued, it mattered too. And I just thought that that was really interesting. Anyway, I had a great weekend. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being a part of this. I really appreciate it. I think I'd like to go and bow out. How's that sound? And then we can get out of here.